Hello again, everyone. This is Alex Toth, part 14. Alex Toth, part 14. And again, this is my series trying to introduce Alex Toth to a younger audience, those who don't know about him. And I always hear people say that. I'm so surprised at that, but that's where we are, right? I don't have a big channel, clearly. I'm trying to grow it, but I think eventually, hopefully, some younger people can discover Toth through his books, through his art, but also through his interviews that I've been reading for the last 14 episodes of this series. So here I am. I'm about to dive into an interview. Jim Amash was conducting the interviews prior to this, and now he's being interviewed. Or it's not being interviewed, actually. He's just, okay. He just wrote up this piece. It's more of an article. I see, okay. That's what it is. And if I recall correctly, I think he had some stuff to say about Toth. I think he was a leftist, liberal, probably Muslim, who knows. Something along those lines. And he took a little, if I remember correctly, again, he was trying to, as all leftists or Muslims do, all collectivists, let's just say, whatever he is, they try to nudge people towards their side because their side's the good side, you know. Any other side is evil, right? But their side's a good side, so they would like to discredit those who their friends admire, like Alex Toth was a listener to Rush Limbaugh. And I don't know if it's in this write-up, but I know that Jim Amash was trying to nudge him away from Rush because Jim Amash didn't like Rush. He didn't respect the man and say, hey, you listen to whoever you want. I may not listen to it. I may not agree. As a friend, I guess he was trying to help him, right? This is where it gets political, personal, defensive to some extent because, again, I just can't stand when leftists do that. I can't stand when anyone tries to do that. Even with me when it comes to Ayn Rand, you know. When I was younger, people were trying to get me away from her. It's like, get the hell out of here. I mean, she's better than you. You know, you who presume to be better than her. Give me a break. It's like Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh is 10 times better than his critics and those who hate him. 10 times better than all of those leftist rats who used to vilify him for decades. 10 times better. Flaws and all. Anyway, here we go. And it was a little hint of it in the last interview, a little hint of it, and I think it'll be more so here. Hopefully he can stay on point and make it about Alex Toth, the artist. But I doubt it because I remember being pissed off at him. Anyway, here we go. Let's see. Alex Toth, Tribute to a Titan, Part 8 in the magazine, but it's Part 14 on my video series. Thundar the Barbarian. That was Toth's design. It was a fun cartoon. It really was. Quote, it was worth the journey, unquote. Jim Amash on his boisterous friendship with Alex Toth. Even that, boisterous. It's like, okay. Not warm, not just that boisterous. Combative? I hope so. I hope Toth let him have it sometimes when he tried to discourage him from listening to Rush Limbaugh and so on. Who knows what else he tried. But anyway, Jim Amash has been a comic book artist since 1992. Has he? I don't know. All I know is that he was Toth's friend, I guess. Look at that get up. Sorry, man. No man dresses like that, but whatever. Yeah, I'm going into this fully acknowledge that I have a strong opinion against this guy. You could, again, the last interview, you could tell to little subtle pot shots here and there at Toth. And here, I think he goes a little more. It could have been here or maybe a comics journal. And if it was a comics journal, how fitting, right? That rag, that goddamn communist rag, the comics journal, that hoity-toity communist rag. Anyway, Jim Amash has been a comic book artist since 1992, I guess, again, and currently inks various Archie features, and especially Sonic the Hedgehog. Oh yeah, and he's also associate editor of Alter Ego. Your gauge is half empty. I met Alex Toth in the fall of 1985 when he came to Acme Con in Greensboro, North Carolina. The show was run by Acme Comics. I was the co-manager of the shop and co-chairman of the convention. Alex was everything you'd want in a major convention guest: funny, witty, extremely pleasant, and honest in his answers to fan questions, gracious almost to a fault. For instance, he knew the convention hotel was not treating us fairly. The last straw for him broke when he asked for some coffee, which arrived with a $60 price tag. $60 price tag in 1985? How's that possible? How's that possible? Though I told him to forget about it, he immediately started sketching for the fans at $20 per drawing. Wow. He donated all of it to help pay for our expenses. Incredible. He wouldn't listen to any argument on the subject. He had made up his mind to help, and that was the end of the subject. Wow. I mean, you hear about his generosity, you hear about his graciousness, you hear about how kind he is to fans, and I know personally speaking how kind he was to me in his incredible, postcards and that letter that he wrote back. So yeah, I get a little pissed off and defensive when it comes to him. I do. He was the greatest, and he deserved to have respect, not try to be, again, nudged away. At this point, he was an older man, nudged away from things that he likes listening to because he's a goddamn leftist. Anyway, I'm going to try it. And again, if you're bothered with this, sorry, too bad. My channel, my work is about religion, politics, culture, art, everything. I don't let anything go. I don't let anything, outside of my art, outside of my commentary. I just don't. I say that like that because I know some people are put off by it. I don't care. Go to someone else who doesn't do that, right? Everyone talks religion and politics, and they pretend they don't. They do it in their own way. I'd rather do it right explicitly in your face. That's what I'd like. When people say Islam means peace, they're talking politics, but in a completely fundamentally dishonest way. Anyway, so here we go. It was a one-day show, but Alex stayed for 5.5. Whoa. It was a one-day show, but Alex stayed for 5.5, I guess 5.5 days. When I called the hotel the morning after the show, they told me was, okay, he already botched it, Amash. They told me, he wrote this, you could tell, right? They told me that he was no longer in the room. I couldn't understand why he had left without saying goodbye until 10:30 when he called to ask about lunch. Where are you? I asked. I'm at the hotel. Where else would I be? He said impatiently. The hotel said you just checked out. I replied, I got another room so you wouldn't have to pay for it. Wow. Damn it. It's unfair for you to pay for my room just because I'm staying over. I'll pay my own freight. Damn it. Toth. The man. That's the man right there. Pays his own way after he decided to stay longer. I'll pay my own. My dissension reached no further but Alex before he told me not to argue. Okay, Alex, you're our guest, so I'll shut up. Alex said, good. Now get over here so we can have lunch. Of course, he paid, and guess who couldn't win that argument either? I said, just who is the host and who is the guest here? Alex laughed and told me to forget about it. Man. Great artist. Good man. Again, flaws and all, right? We all have flaws. We're all human beings. Some of us are a lot better than others. Some of us suck. But this idea that, again, trying to get people to change, it's like a rotten woman. And I mean that, like a rotten woman who wants to change their man, right? It's like, yeah, nice try, but you came to me for me, right? You came to me because of who I am. If you could possibly make me better? Sure, why not? Through a relationship, through a give and take, through a learning, through a, but nothing through, hey, I don't like that about you, so you better change. To hell with that. Anyway, Alex laughed and told me to forget about it. On Tuesday, a small group of us took Alex to a local movie theater, and that played old movies once a month. You should have seen Alex's face during the viewing of The Thin Man. He was like a little kid seeing the movie for the first time, though this was maybe the 50th viewing, at least for him. Wow. Again, I love it. I love hearing these things. Man, he wasn't a social being, especially near the end. He really wasn't, so I'm glad to hear that. At least, I guess he was in his 50s at that point, close to his 60s at that point. So he was still out there. It's just great to know. Again, I read all this a while back. It's the first time I'm rereading it, I believe. So it seems like some of it seems just fresh to me. He goes, okay. The former guest, now host, paid for everyone's admission and later for dinner too. Wow. At dinner, Alex began dissecting what he had seen. He complained about the quality of the print to the point of laughter and cross-examined us about the details of the movie. Did we notice the use of silhouettes, the lack of close-ups, etc., etc.? I drove him back to his hotel after dinner. Alex started complaining about the amount of gas in the tank. Your tank is half empty. You should never let it fall below 2/3 of a tank. You get better gas mileage when the tank has a lot of gas in it. And what if you forget to keep it full and you run out of gas somewhere? Do you have a gas can in the car? I told him I didn't, but I had never run out of gas and always kept my eye on the gas gauge. When the gauge dipped below the halfway mark, Alex started complaining again. Pull up to the next gas station and fill up. I did, and Alex insisted on paying for the gas. I let him pay the bill because it was not that important to him. Okay, I let him pay the bill because it was not that important to him. I nagged you into it, so I'll pay the bill. But from now on, you got to keep a better eye on that gas gauge. He's right about that. Me as a young punk, I definitely run out of gas a few times. It's not good. Are you still speaking to me? Okay, I guess they had a falling out. Let's see. From then on, we talked on the phone nearly every day, sometimes several times a day. We exchanged letters too. Now, anyone who knows me knows how much I like to talk. Alex also had a reputation for verbosity. Verbosity. So you can imagine that phone bills that went along with being his friend. You can imagine the phone bills that went along with being his friend. One person suggested I was crazy to talk to him so much because I'd get fewer letters and drawings that way. That's hilarious. Well, maybe so, but I was looking at Alex as a friend, not someone from whom I could get free artwork and hand-lettered postcards. Okay, he was looking at him as a friend. Was he his friend, or was he looking at him as a friend? Is that just words, or is that just a guy? I don't know. Doesn't sound right. And again, we'll see. His doodle sheets and postcards are legendary, and I do have my share of them. I also have lots of incomplete drawings, false starts for Zorro covers and other one-pagers, and pages of published art from Alex. One thing about Alex, he valued his work, and just because I was a good friend, I wasn't going to get much of a discount. Awesome. Good. Same here. Which was fine because I certainly never asked for one. I never asked him for a free drawing either, though he once drew Captain Marvel for me when I suggested that both Alex and his fans missed out on something special because he'd never done any Captain Marvel stories. Look at this. Look at the whimsy here. Nope. Sorry. Just too tired for a flying pose today. That's awesome. That's just awesome. Love it. And what a drawing. Beautiful. Look at his Zorro. Look at that frame right there. Beautiful. Look at that shadow. Almost in complete shadow, except for the smoke. Incredible. So the drawing came in a regular envelope, folded in thirds, drawn on yellow paper. He called me that night. Are you still speaking to me? He asked. Of course. Why wouldn't I? Because I drew it on yellow paper. Yeah, I noticed that. Why did you do that? Alex said with fake gruffness. That way you can't sell it. It makes it less valuable. That's hilarious. Alex, I wouldn't do that. Besides, this actually makes it more valuable. Oh, that's hilarious. And it's true. It's true because it's done on a different type of paper, right? So Amash says, Alex said, how? I replied, well, how many drawings have you done on yellow paper? I could take out an ad in the Comic Buyer's Guide and tout its rarity. Oh, jeez, he started, until he heard me laughing, and then he started laughing too. You got me, he said, with slight disappointment. Alex admitted it was his contrary nature that caused him to use yellow paper. Alex, you contrary? Oh, shut up, he laughed. Hilarious. I think any damn good artist is a contrarian to some extent, not in the dishonest way. Like if someone hates something, well, I like it. That's stupid. That's just idiotic. I'm talking about in this way, in this ultimate way, right? Muslims say you can't draw Muhammad. I say, fuck you. I am going to draw Muhammad in that way. Anyway, Craig Grant was an Acme Comics customer and my good friend. Through me, he commissioned Alex to do a black and white tonal drawing of Space Ghost. When the drawing arrived, I discovered there were 2 smaller Space Ghost drawings on the package, one from me and one from a mutual friend, Teresa Davidson. When I asked about the extra drawings, Alex said, I wanted Teresa to have one, and I knew if I did one for her, I'd have to do one for you too. It was typical Alex. Gruffness hiding generous consideration of others, but he couldn't play that gruffness out completely because he was chuckling when he said it. I've known people like that. They're sweethearts, absolute, just good people. And I think they've been burned. And they have a hard shell. But once you know them, once you get to know them, they just open up. It's awesome. This is your favorite manic depressive quote. Alex was deeply interested in the latest comic book news. What's selling in your shop? What's so-and-so doing these days? How does it look? Send me a copy. He always wanted to hear personal stories about people in the business, not out of nosiness, but out of curiosity. Alex hardly ever left his house or allowed anyone to invade his privacy. I sent him tons of books over the years. Many were gifts and many he purchased. I tried to give him a shop discount, but he grunted. How can you make any money if you're doing this? I want to pay my own way. Oh, man. Which you often did, although sometimes I'd argue, for God's sake, Alex, you give me stuff, I can occasionally do the same for you, You can afford it, he'd snort. You can't afford it, he'd snort, excuse me. I know how little you make. Sometimes I won those arguments and Alex gratefully accepted the gifts. Because Alex willingly became housebound, I, like several others, wound up buying and mailing him care packages. I taped TV shows, old-time radio shows, and movies for him. Brought him a telephone, boombox, food, and most importantly to Alex, cigarettes. He often bought books from me and had me mail them to his friends. He wanted to share the good stuff with his friends, some of whom couldn't afford them on their own. Alex never asked for anything in return from those people. The sharing of books, magazines, and videotapes fueled discussions between Alex and his friends. So it's great to hear that, you hear about it, but he did have friends. No matter how much of a recluse he was, I think he was a lovable guy from everything that I gathered from these people. From people that I read about, and just a lovable guy. A good man also, yeah, flaws and all. You could definitely get nasty from what I gather. I never caught wind of it, but I hear people did. And I almost mentioned the old day in the last video, but I forgot the word. It was bipolar. Supposedly he was diagnosed as bipolar later in life, and it could explain, I guess, his high and low, happy, sad, ways. But let's see. Some people complain that we enabled his chosen lifestyle. Perhaps that's true, but I doubt anyone minded doing it. It made his life bearable, and my main concern was Alex's happiness. He didn't have enough of it in his life. Sometimes he'd call, answering my hello with, "This is your favorite manic depressive." He said it with humor, all the while knowing it was an apt description. The only other thing I'll say on this subject is that I worried about Alex, even though I knew he had other lifelines. Alex used to ask how it was that I was almost always in a good mood. It was probably high. I had no real answer for him except to say that I enjoy life and most of the people in it. He liked my laugh, and hearing it made him laugh and feel good. He called me when he needed cheering up, often late at night, sometimes even at 2 or 3 a.m. Wow. I've always been a night person, so it wasn't like he was waking me up. He called me whenever he was lonely or excited about something he had read or saw on television. We had many common interests. Alex was responsible for introducing some of those interests into my life, musicals being only one example. "What? You don't like musicals? Why the hell not?" He launched into a long discourse about why he liked musicals, which prompted me to give them a try. I started with the Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers vehicle, Top Hat, and was immediately hooked. Alex's reply, "See? I told you they were good," sounding very satisfied with his recommendation. We talked enthusiastically about everything imaginable with the exception of baseball. Alex never cared much for sports, though he, like most of America, followed the 1998 home run chase of Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. Once, when we were talking about some unpleasant political happenings, he said, "I'm tired of talking about unhappy crap. Let's talk about Jack Cole or Kniff or something." Jack Cole, the creator of Plastic Man. I mean, think about that. That is a fun character to draw, to look at, to read about. Just totally fun. Jack Cole, great cartoonist. Let's talk about Jack Cole or Milton Kniff or something, I said. "Well, you know, the Atlanta Braves have finally put together a good baseball club and..." "Oh no," he screamed. "Anything but that damn baseball." I'm with you, Alex. I'm with you. Whatever America's pastime, it's like, my God, I could never get into it. I can't. The most boring sport. When you can have fat guys as athletes, come on. Come on. Is that a real sport? I mean, really, I know people love it. I know Ethan Van Sciver loves it. I could never do it. I can never watch it. Play it, sure. As a kid, yeah, absolutely. It's fun to play. I will say that. To watch it as a spectator, absolutely not. That's why, basketball, you got these guys, they have to be in shape. Have to be. You got to run up and down. I mean, soccer players as well, you got to be in shape. You have to be. Baseball, you got these guys with big bellies, like, what the hell? So, let's see. Response, anything but that damn baseball. I started laughing and said, "Gotcha." His response is not printable. But it was funny. I owed him that one because he'd do the same thing to me, cackling, "Gotcha," every time, always with humor. Politics was a common topic for discussion. Alex was very conservative, and looking back, I'm amazed we didn't have more political arguments. You see? I mean, I can smell it. The guy's a leftist. If he's still alive today, he's probably going to vote for Harris. He probably voted for Biden. He probably hates Trump and all that. But think about that as well, though, okay? Toth didn't give a shit. And I guess this guy didn't either until he tried to edge him away from Rush. It's like, you go listen to any rat leftist you want. That's it. I'm not going to tell you to stop. Don't tell me to stop. Anyway, politics was a common topic for discussion. Alex was very conservative, and looking back, I'm amazed we didn't have more political arguments. Sometimes I agree with him, and sometimes I didn't. One surprising incident involved his reaction to Jesse Jackson's 1988 speech at the Democratic Convention. Alex called me afterwards, virtually in tears over how great he thought the speech was. Damn, Alex. The guy's a goddamn, he's a piece of crap, and he could barely speak, so... I thought you didn't like Jesse Jackson. I usually don't, he replied, but it was a hell of a powerful speech. He really touched a nerve with me. Hell, if he ran for president right now, I'd vote for him. I don't know, man. Do I believe that? Do I believe that from this guy? I don't know. Let's just put a big question mark on top of that. First of all, he can hardly speak, Jesse Jackson. And he's a piece of shit liar and a racist. So whatever kind of speech that was, it might have been better than their own nominee, let's just say. Maybe. Anyway, the time came when I heard Alex using new, to me, terms to describe the feelings of voters in America. After a couple of weeks of that, I asked where he got these new ideas. Listen to that, okay? The time came when I heard Alex is a grown man at this time, in his 60s, I believe, at that point. A grown man. The time came, look at the way he introduces also, the time came when I heard Alex using new, to me, terms to describe the feelings of voters in America. The feelings of voters. Not the issues, not the facts, not where the country was heading, but the feelings of voters. What a leftist thing to say. After a couple of weeks of that, I asked him where he got these new ideas. Hey, kid, you're a 60-year-old. Hey, kid, where'd you get these new ideas all of a sudden that I haven't heard you say before? He had discovered a new radio talk show host named Rush Limbaugh. He's a conservative who really sees what's going on in the country. He did. No matter what this lying leftist will say, no matter what lying leftist said, no matter what even right-wingers say, he did. Rush, flaws and all, was a good thing. His show was good. I couldn't listen to it after a while, personally speaking. I didn't like the style of it. I just didn't like his style. But I never faulted him for the content of what he was saying. The content was good. It was always directed towards telling the truth, sticking to that, and not trashing America like the left always does. That wasn't his thing. He loved the country. So Alex was, okay. He's a conservative who really sees what's going on in the country. He does it with humor. It's kidding on the square, as Alex said. Alex was irritated that I hadn't heard of Limbaugh because he wanted to discuss the show with me. I tried to find Limbaugh's show on the radio, but couldn't. Sure. He couldn't find Rush Limbaugh's show? Even in the early days, I mean, he was, popular as hell. One day he called me at 12 noon, East Coast time. I know it's golden time, meaning the most expensive time of the day to make a long-distance call, but I want you to hear Rush Limbaugh. I'm going to sit the phone by the radio for the next 3 hours so you can hear this guy. Alex, that's going to run into a ton of money for you. Let's try this. I'll listen while I try to find him on the radio. If I find him, I'll hang up so you won't have to have a massive phone bill. I did find Limbaugh, and afterwards Alex called to discuss the program. He became a big fan of Limbaugh's and expected me to listen to his show every day so we could talk about it. Limbaugh's politics were too conservative for me, that's for sure. And I realized he employed the same kind of spin he accused. See, this is the lie. This guy's lying. He's lying. I've listened to Rush. I have a BS detector like no one. And things that I didn't like, the way Rush handled his show, with sometimes the arrogance bugged me, but the content, I can never fault. The content. And on top of that, he, being an arch conservative, religious conservative, Christian, right? Still, when younger members of his show called in to say, Rush, what can I do? How can I make a difference? What can I say? Basically, they're struggling to find out what they can do to try to help the country, to try to make the country better, to try to make their own lives better, right? So on. And Rush didn't say, read my books. Rush didn't say, read William F. Buckley Jr.'s books. He didn't say, go read National Review. He didn't go say, read the Bible. You know what he said? Read Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. He called her Anne Rand, even though he knew better. That's his way, I think, of trying to pretend he wasn't as into her as he was. But think about that also. This religious conservative, right? This Christian. He didn't say read the Bible. He didn't say read the National Review. He didn't say read my books, his books, Rush Limbaugh's books. He didn't say read William F. Buckley Jr.'s books. He said read Atlas Shrugged. He understood. He understood. that those ideas, the way Rand presented them, the way Rand wrote about the country, about life, about philosophy, about good and evil, and industry and capitalism and socialism, he knew nobody did it better. He knew that. And this guy here, with his leftism, and leftism is fundamentally dishonest. Fundamentally dishonest. He cannot abide by a successful guy like Rush Limbaugh having a show like that without trying to tear him down and say, yeah, he's phony. Just like those he criticizes. Bullshit. And again, I didn't like everything Rush said. I didn't care for, again, his attitude at times. The arrogance was just ridiculous at times, especially all things considered with his life and stuff, with his own problems, drug problems and so on. But this idea that he was a phony, that he wasn't. He loved the country. He was a net positive, big time, unlike the left. This guy says here, let's see what he says here. Okay, he employed the same kind of spin he accused his opponents of doing, meaning your fellow leftists. It got to the point where I didn't want to listen anymore, but I knew that would tick Alex off. So I started challenging Limbaugh's more outrageous statements, trying to shake Alex's faith in him. Listen to that, okay? Listen to that. That's not a friend. It's not. You accept your friends. You accept them. If they're your friends, you accept them. If you can't be with them because of politics, okay, then don't be their friend. But if they're your friends, you accept them. You don't try to change them politically. Again, it's like a shitty woman would do. Try to change you, right? I don't want you to be who I fell in love with or I don't want you to be that. I want you to be a nicer, softer version, a more feminine version, let's say. No. Can't stand that. So here he is admitting it here, and he thinks I guess, is in his own bubble, so his fellow leftists read this and don't think anything of it, where I read it and I get offended that this punk is trying to tell an older man who knows his stuff. He's trying to get him away from him. I want to shake Alex's faith in Rush Limbaugh. And again, he could argue, yeah, but Rush is a liar. He's not. You're the liar. Again, Rush was 10 times better than his opponents. 10 times better than any of his critics. And of course, 10 times better than any of his rivals, if there were any. There's a reason why he was at the top, 20 million listeners every day. There was a reason why. Because the thrust of his show was telling the truth about the world we live in, about America, about life, the general thrust, and always done in a positive way. You know, when they try to condemn him for saying that he hoped Obama failed, I knew what he meant. He hopes that this rotten communist / Muslim / atheist / whatever the hell he is didn't get his way, because if he got his way, the country would suffer, and it did. That's what he meant. So this guy wants to bring in politics. I'm gonna rip him for it. He's the one doing it. He could have stuck to Toth's art, right? He didn't. He wants to talk about this. He wants to talk about how he tried to help Alex, this man, right, who he loved, his friend, right? He wanted to say, I want you to get away from Limbaugh because I don't like him, because he's too conservative for me. This guy's a leftist. It's offensive that anyone would try to change. It's like, again, two men also, it's like, you sound like a woman, like in the worst sense. And I'm not a misogynist, love women. Women, not feminists. Those are communist whores. I'm talking about women. Individualistic women who are women, all women, right? They're all women, meaning they're all women, that type of thing. No one would do that. No woman would try to come into my life and try to, hey, your work turns me on, you turn me on, all this, right? And then we get together, and then all of a sudden, hey, I want you to be less of a masculine version of yourself. No. And that's what it seems like this guy's trying to do. He's like, hey, Alex, don't like him because I don't like him. I don't like Rush Limbaugh. I can't listen to him, so you stop. And therefore, he tried to create this scenario where I'm going to challenge him on Rush's more outrageous statements, trying to shake Alex's faith in him. That wasn't working very well until Limbaugh said one of the dumbest things I've ever heard anyone say. Let's see. Alex, I think the guy was just stupid today. He was railing against tree huggers, right? Environmentalists, global warming hacks, claiming there were more trees in America today than there were in 1776. Think about that for a moment. A majority of the country was industrialized in 1776. Nobody was cutting down trees for highways, condos, or even whorehouses. And besides, I thought he said warehouses, whorehouses. And besides, how would anybody, okay, so he's trying to take this one little thing about this, that's maybe a slip up on Rush's part, right? But he got it, right? I got him. Now I can discredit Rush to my good friend Alex because I want him to get away from his conservative ideas and maybe come to mine. Maybe I can make him a little more leftist or leftist, to some extent at least. So he says, and besides, how would anybody know how many trees there were in 1776? Nobody counted them. It's absolutely stupid. Now, that's a dumb argument. If you're going to try to make an argument against Rush, try to make it on a fundamental level, on a serious level. Otherwise, this is just stupid. And it says here, and Alex ended up agreeing with me, and from then on, while he continued to listen to Limbaugh, he started paying closer attention to his statements, and his enthusiasm for the show seemed to dim a little. It worked, Jim Amash. It worked. Yeah, you worked. You got him away from a guy who was too conservative for you, who was too American for you, who was too non-leftist for you. Great job, Jim. Great job. Bravo. And you put this in a magazine about Alex Toth that's about comic books. And this is what you do with your segment in this magazine. Ugh. Leftists always shoving their shit down our throats. Always. Can't stand it. Even here, he couldn't resist. Anyway, and it got me off the hook. I didn't feel obligated to listen to Rush anymore. And I've avoided him since then. Dummy, you could have told Alex, I love you, Alex. I can't listen to this guy. And that's it. You keep listening to him. I can't listen to him and I don't want to talk about him. That's it. But being a coward who's like, he has to create this scenario where he has to try to discredit Rush to this grown man. It's offensive. Alex considered himself to be an independent. Absolutely. And didn't vote a straight party ticket. 1992, he went crazy over Ross Perot. I get it. That little bantamweight's in there slugging, he gushed. It's damn well about time someone started looking out for the little guy. At last, there's someone out there who tells it like it is. Despite a few later misgivings, Alex voted for Perot for president, feeling Bush and Clinton were not very good choices. He's absolutely right about that. They both sucked. That ought to show the bastards, quote unquote. Alex loved the radio shows of his younger days, The Shadow, Terry. I hope he gets away from this now. Just stop with the politics, you goddamn leftist. Let's stick to Alex Toth, okay? Alex loved the radio shows of his younger days, The Shadow, Terry and the Pirates, Jack Armstrong, The All-American Boy, I Love a Mystery, among others. One night he called me, sounding as excited as I ever heard him. You won't believe the night I had. There was a local radio station that played old-time radio shows every evening, followed by a talk show. This night, Alex called in. I'm sorry. Okay. That wasn't Alex talking. So I ever heard him. He goes, you won't believe the night I had. So this is Amash talking now. There was a local radio station that played old-time radio shows every evening, followed by a talk show. This night, Alex called in and told the host, have you ever noticed that the theme music of Little Orphan Annie is almost exactly like All in the Families? The host hadn't and invited Alex to sing the Annie song, which he did. That's hilarious. Followed by Alex's singing the All in the Family song. The host kept Alex on the air for 10 minutes, which is forever in talk radio circles. True. even holding him over during a commercial break, and they talked about the old days of radio and movies. Since I hadn't heard the Annie theme song, Alex sang it for me. He wasn't much of a singer, but his pure joy from singing was delightful and endearing. For Alex, it was 1940 again, and he was reveling in the memory of the escapist entertainment of his childhood. Radio, comics, movies, and drawing were his early refuges from unhappy times. And the comfort they brought sustained him until the end of his life. When any of it fell beneath his standards, it pained him, and he complained like a wounded lover. That's well put, because that's how you feel when art and mediums, comics and whatnot, just fall short of what you wish they are. You feel like a wounded lover. It is painful. It is. Speaking of complaints, he called one evening asking if DC Comics had reprinted anything of his lately. I told him I didn't think so, and he told me why he asked. I can't believe what DC did. They overnighted me a royalty check of $1.25. Overnighted? Why the hell did they even bother sending me this piddling amount? I explained to him DC had a royalty policy, and they obviously had an efficient accounting system. Efficient? It cost them about $5 to cut the check, and maybe 10 more to mail it to me. It makes no damn sense. I tried to explain why this happened. Hold on a second. I'm sorry. I understand Toth's anger here. I get it. He's outraged at the stupidity, right? This guy's trying to say, I was trying to tell him what the situation was, like some presumptuous punk. Again, I can't stand this guy's attitude. It comes right through the page. Toth's right. It's ridiculous that they would do this. It's a waste of time, waste of money, waste of everything, right? And he's talking about, I tried to tell him to explain why this happened when Alex cut him with, I'm going to show them. This check is good for 180 days, so I'm not going to cash it until the 180th day. It'll screw the hell out of their bookkeeping. That ought to show the bastards. It's hilarious. It is. Would I do that necessarily? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But I think it's so stupid. 3 months later, he said, today is the 90th day of me not cashing that DC check. I hope it's driving them crazy. At this point, I can drink some water. 1 second. At this point, he was showing more humor about the subject. Finally, on the 180th day, Alex called me, laughing and laughing. I finally cashed that check today. I hope they learned their lesson. A couple of weeks later, he called me, yelling his head off. They did it to me again. I can't believe DC did it to me again. They sent me another royalty check. At this time, it was for 75 cents. You can guess the rest of the conversation. It's ridiculous. It's so stupid. Corporate America, some of those things are really retarded. Just really, really stupid. One night he called me about his phone bill. I spent $250 this month. Most of it on you. And Bunky, you're not worth it. Whoa. And let me tell you why. Wow. He then spent an hour or so railing about his phone bill when he cheerfully said, well, I feel better now. I said, you won't when you get the bill for this call. And he growled that it was my own damn fault. Uttered a few curse words and hung up. I sat there laughing, and he called back to say rather meekly, by the way, I forgot to tell you something. And another hour or so went by before that conversation was finished. Most of that complaining was an act he knew I enjoyed. In case you haven't already guessed, Alex often used humor to mask his feelings. He called it kidding on the square. Kidding on the square. It was his way of making displeasing subjects easier to deal with. He knew I could always tell when he really meant his kidding. When he couldn't laugh something off, Alex sure let you know it. Shyness wasn't exactly one of his better-known traits. The few times he was shy were charming and magnetic. Quote, I have to show you something I've had since I was a kid. Alex was extremely interested in my art. Where is it? Come on. Show it. Come on, Jim. What's up? Show it. Anyway. He always wanted to see what I was doing. Alex often offered advice rather gently, I thought, compared to some of the harsh critiques he was known to give, and to himself as well. He was very harsh on himself. You should note that. I asked why he wasn't tougher on me, and he said, I was tough enough. I like your work. It has the ring of truth behind it. You do honest work. I got to see it now. I felt and still feel his feelings for me interfered with his criticism, which he denied. Your draftsmanship isn't as bad as you think it is, and anyway, you convey the proper mood. Your storytelling is direct and effective. He taught me to demand more of myself and to broaden my horizons. Don't settle for what you're doing. You can always do better. Look, learn, and experience what's out there. Experiment with new tools, new ways of composition, different ways of expressing yourself. That's what he told me in the second letter about shading and just different ways, different pens, different, it's just beautiful, the precise advice that he gave. It's awesome. Different ways. He gave me books he thought would aid my progression. He was one of the most encouraging people in my life and was happy for me when I completed my MFA, when I exhibited my work in galleries and museums, and even more so when I broke into the comic book business as an inker. Once, when I was complaining about a penciler who had over-rendered a page to the point of obscuring its visual impact, Alex said, if I was there, we'd break out some thick markers and show that guy how it should be done. The thought of working side by side with Alex on comics never left me. More than once, we discussed my inking him, but I knew it wasn't likely to happen. I wish it had. Man, that would have been something. An opportunity to ink Toth. Whether even a single character, a single panel, or a comic book. I mean, imagine that. I've seen his pencils also. They're gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Paul Revoch has a video where he shows one of his Toth's pages. Challengers of the Unknown, something, I forgot what it was. It was for DC. I think Kirby drew some of that issue. Toth drew some of it. And the pencils were just absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Amash continues, I was one of the few people whom Alex invited to be a house guest, and I took him up on it 3 times, each time for 3 days. The first time was in 1991. I went to the San Diego Comic Convention, spent 3 days with Jack and Roz Kirby, then off to Alex's. He gave me a bear hug and said, let's go have lunch and visit my mother. He took me to his favorite Mexican restaurant. I didn't know much about Mexican food, so Alex ordered both food and wine. Once our glasses were full, he toasted me with a courtly, welcome to California. After we visited his mother, we went grocery shopping. At one point, Alex considered buying a bottle of wine, but complained he had no one to help him drink it. You're just not much of a drinker, kiddo. I reminded him I had just drunk a glass of wine with him. Oh, hell then. We'll get polluted together. He took me on a brief tour of Hollywood and Burbank. By the way, this is his character, Jesse Bravo for Adventure. If there's one story comic book that is full-blown Alex Toth from top to bottom, from the setting, takes place in the 1930s, to the character's looks, Errol Flynn, I think he used Katharine Hepburn as the lead female in there. Errol Flynn as the lead, as a model, a loose model. It's Bravo for Adventure. I have a small version, I have a larger version, and I have the artist edition, the huge one. And it's beautiful, it's stunning. The art is gorgeous, the story's fine. It's not something that will stand the test of time in terms of it's a great, great, great story. It's a fine story. It's well told, and the characters are likable. I just wish, and he wishes as well. He complained that those who were pushing him to do everything didn't tell him to do writing. So he was like, damn it, he regretted it. But it's a good story. It's fine. It's a solid story. It's not great, though. It's not like Daredevil Born Again, written by Frank Miller, drawn by Maz Kelly on that level, because that's just, to me, one of the finest comic books ever written. Watchmen, even, all things considered, it's a great piece of work, even though Alan Moore is a mess. And who hates comics, who hates superheroes. Something he's most known for. It's pathetic. But anyway, he took me on a brief tour of Hollywood and Burbank. We drove by the Disney building and he remarked, "Have you ever seen such an ugly building in your life?" That's hilarious considering where they ended up today. The lowlifes at Disney. God, what an eyesore. That's hilarious. On the highway, he discussed how much cleaner the air was when he first moved to California. See all that mist and fog? Behind it are mountains, which were plainly visible when I first came out here. Back at his house, we had barely sat down when he said, "I have to show you something I've had since I was a kid." He turned around in his chair, reached into a drawer, searched for a moment before pulling out his Little Orphan Annie decoder ring. Wow. By the way, those Little Orphan Annie, comic strips, beautiful. So well done. So beautifully drawn. With childlike enthusiasm, he told me about all the Ovaltine he had to drink to get that ring. The experience was still fresh in his mind. As he described the anticipation of waiting for the ring to arrive in the mail, and the pure joy he felt when it came, the expression on his face was the kind of look that must have been there the day he got the ring. I was sitting next to a 63-year-old man going on 10. So yeah, okay, he was in his 60s, right? In so many ways, the boy never left the man. Well, that's the thing, about artists. Why? Why bother? You're an adult, sure, but you still love the things that you loved, especially if you committed yourself to actually becoming a part of that field, right? You still retained, because you loved it as a kid, you decided as an adult to make a living with it. So you still retained that childhood love for it. I mean, no doubt, in a deeper way, a more intimate way even. So you really can retain your childhood in that sense, no matter how mature you are. Alex showed me around the house. Upstairs, I saw a studio room with little in it besides a wooden drafting table. The room had obviously gone unused for some years. I asked if he missed working at that drawing table. Alex said he didn't, because he had given up trying to draw stories. When Gala died, I died. And so did the reason for using that room. He did continue to draw, but at his dining room table. Gala was Alex's late wife, the last of 4, and the greatest love of his life, in my opinion. He never really recovered from her death. And you always hear that she was the love of his life, the one who really, really got him. The sad look he gave towards that room did not go unnoticed by me. It disappeared once he brought out 2 portfolios. See, now this is where he should have kept it, Jim Amash. Shouldn't have gotten to this stupid politics. But you asked for it. You're going to mention it, then I'm going to go after you, yes. But this is the good stuff here. This is why people got this magazine. So, the sad look he gave towards that room did not go unnoticed by me. It disappeared once he brought out 2 portfolios, which he laid out on the den floor. One contained published work, the other unused art. He said everything he said everything was for sale except his Bravo for Adventure pages, his favorite comic book work. His best. We spent a little time discussing his storytelling aspects of Bravo. He let me go through the unpublished work, which was mainly rejected pages not for sale. Some finished, some not. One page was an unused splash for Archie Comics' Fox character. I guess this one, which is awesome. Look at that. I couldn't understand why Alex didn't like it. He couldn't explain why, except that it just doesn't work, he said. I still think he was wrong, but Alex was always severely critical of his work. He was, and that's why, whenever people say, oh, he was so harsh to others, yeah, as harsh as he was to himself. He didn't give others what he didn't give himself. It's like Michael Jordan, right, playing as a rookie. He busted his ass out there before he told anyone to do that. He lead by example, right? That first night proved to be one I will never forget. While he was cooking dinner, I asked what we were having, and he said chicken. I said, God, that's so foul. Alex whipped around with a surprised look on his face, saw me grinning, and doubled over laughing. It may have been the biggest laugh I ever got out of him. very good. Engard with a sword, right? Alex had set aside several movies he wanted us to watch, though he had already seen them countless times. Hey man, these movies can be, endlessly, repeatedly viewed because they're great. I mean, Godfather, I can watch that. I can watch, what was that? Groundhog Day. Captain, what was it? Not Captain Hook. It was Errol Flynn. That first one, that first classic, all-time classic. Captain Blood. Wow. What a movie. Midnight Run. The Thomas Crown Affair. Pierce Brosnan's version. Fantastic. Can watch those again and again and again. And then, of course, others, but Back to the Future, Star Wars, clearly. Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back, right there. Those are the ones that really, really, really count in terms of the Star Wars movies. Raging Bull. Anyway, after dinner, we viewed the Mark of Zorro. Every few minutes, he would pause the tape and discuss what was happening. Look at the staging here. See how the director set the scene. Look at how he played with black and white to make up for the lack of color. Notice how the camera leads your eye from one section of the screen to the other, and then to the next shot. Watch what happens next and keep your eye focused on the upper right corner of the screen. Alex, the educator, didn't want me to miss a thing. He wanted to teach me the mechanics of film and storytelling, and I got one hell of a lesson that evening. Now, I want to see this guy's art because I tell you one thing. If you have a friend like Alex Toth and you're a decent artist, you better be better. So I'm going to check this out after the fact and just see Jim Amash and see his work. I mean, I hope he made the most of it, let's just say, of having a friend like Alex. He wanted to teach me the mechanics of film and storytelling, and I got one hell of a lesson that evening. Once the movie was over, he rewound the tape and said, let's watch it again. Only this time, I'll keep my mouth shut and let you watch it without my interference. The aftermath of our second viewing found Alex still on a high note. He got up and said he was going to the bathroom. I was sitting there in silence when I became aware that he was standing behind me. I turned around, and in a beautiful but scary bit of timing, Alex pounced on my direction with a foil in his left hand, shouting, "Engard!" It's hilarious. The tip of the foil nearly touched my chin, and I was glad I hadn't moved an inch. Alex stood there in his best Errol Flynn impression, a Cheshire cat grin on his face. I inspected the foil and asked for another one so we could fence. He didn't like the suggestion because he knew I had never held a foil in my hand. Alex, just take it easy with me then. He still refused until I said Zorro wouldn't turn me down, and he blushingly acquiesced. We fenced for 5 minutes or so until Alex's fear of accidentally hurting me overtook him, and he called a halt to the match. It was a good thing he did because I didn't know what I was doing, though Alex was coaching me as we fenced. But I can forever say I fenced with Zorro. Hilarious. Toth did, he adapted the Zorro, was it a TV show? I think it was a Disney TV show, if I'm not mistaken. Beautiful job, and supposedly he got really pissed off halfway through when they wouldn't let him change some stuff. So he said he basically he finished it with no heart, and you couldn't tell really. I mean, to some extent, maybe if you pay close attention, it was still great though. Still better than most lesser artists. Maybe it wasn't up to his level, but. So Alex also took the opportunity to give me cartooning tips several times during my visit. I'd ask him questions and he'd draw out the solution, describing his reasons all the while. I would have loved to have those drawings, but I had the feeling I shouldn't ask for them, so they unfortunately ended up in the wastebasket. He had the feeling you shouldn't ask for them? Just ask for them. What the hell? That disappointment aside, these experiences proved to me that Alex would have made a great teacher had he been so inclined. I mean, he probably would have, From what I gather, Dave Maskelly is a great teacher. Been doing it for decades. Think about that. A master like that teaching art at the Rhode Island School of Design and at the School of Visual Arts. I was back east at one point, and I was going to try to get him as a teacher. I couldn't find out anything from the school. I called in. I tried to find out where he was going to be that semester. It was a very strange thing, very strange. Maybe they were trying to, I don't know, avoid any problems that may have happened. I don't know. Anyway, one habit of his I found very humorous involved his smoking. Jim Amash continues about Toth. He smoked 5 packs of Saratogas a day. That's insane. Wow. At my most, I smoked 2 packs a day. When I was in vacation in Miami once, I smoked 4 packs a day, but it was, all just hanging out, right? I mean, enjoying yourself on the beach, on the walks, in restaurants. But 2, I smoked for 7 years, stopped cold turkey. 5 packs a day. He smoked 5 packs a day, Saratogas a day. I should know because I was always mailing them to him. He claimed he wasn't a chain smoker because he never used the end of a spent one to light a new cigarette. Instead, he gently crushed one out, then lit up another. That's hilarious. Once he'd done that, he'd get up from his chair and empty the ashtray. I hate the sight of dirty ashtray, he said. 100 trips a day to the trash can was his idea of exercise. He also sucked on cough drops so that the taste of all those cigarettes didn't ruin the taste in his mouth. And yes, I bought him countless packs of Hall's cough drops too. My wife Heidi and I brought 2 cats into our home. Alex and Kirby. Wow. Guess who they were named after? That's right. I wonder why not Toth and Kirby. I guess because he knew Toth at a personal level, but it sounded like he knew Kirby and his wife as well, Roz. So Alex cried with joy when I told him we named a cat after him. He wanted pictures, of course, and always wanted to hear stories about his namesake. I soon discovered that the feline Alex was a lot like the real Alex, and Alex loved that. After one of Alex's kittenish antics, I told the human Alex, "This is the last time I name a cat after a Hungarian. He's inherited your temperament, and it's all your fault." "Yeah, go ahead and blame me. I've always been a bad influence," he joked. "You should know that Hungarians are hot-blooded people," which was an excuse he frequently employed, seriously and comically. I did an interview with Alex that was supposed to be a representation of a typical conversation between us, but Alex got a little uptight with the idea, so it became more of a regular interview. Alex rewrote a bit of the text, removing a few things I would have preferred to remain. He called me the day I got the rewritten manuscript. "Are you still talking to me?" he asked both coyly and seriously. "Of course I am. I was afraid you wouldn't like me rewriting you so much." I told him it was fine, and it was. Alex was concerned because he had done similar things with others, causing some unhappiness. But the interview was a good one, and you can read it in Comic Book Artist number 11, still available from Tomorrow's, my only shameless plug for the day. I must have read that in the number of videos ago. Quote, "My bad Hungarian temper. Unfortunately, our friendship, like most with Alex, was not destined to last. My emotions involving all things Toth are mixed, and it would be dishonest of me to ignore the fact that Alex Toth could be an extremely difficult person." Yeah, that's what I gather. That's what I hear. And it is what it is, right? Let's see. Family, friends, co-workers, or even those he confronted upon a first and only meeting. Few were spared what Alex called my bad Hungarian temper. Friendship with Alex could be exhilarating, irritating, painful, joyful, a smoldering cauldron of ever-changing emotions cascading from a man who seldom tempered his reactions. There was no need for much of it. And while there was no need for much of it. What does that mean? No need for the way he expressed himself? Okay, again, trying to, control him. There was no need for much of it, and while he unnecessarily hurt many people over the years, Alex's own pain over those episodes was penetratingly deep. Alex tried to forgive people who transgressed him, but he would never forget that transgression, whether legitimate or merely perceived. Alex just couldn't let go of past hurts, whether he be instigator or recipient. Unfortunately, the attitude that just caused him more misery and broken relationships. Now, there's something here. Remember someone said that he had a photographic memory? Remember that in one of the earlier interviews? That could go also for that type of thing, right? For regret, for anger. Maybe he couldn't get rid of it. Maybe it was emotional memory as well. Who knows? Maybe. Unfortunately, that attitude just caused him more. Okay. Alex just couldn't let go of past hurts, whether he be instigator or a recipient. Unfortunately, that attitude just caused him more misery and broken friendships. Alex treasured friendships, but his adherence to the John Wayne-like philosophy, never apologize, mister, is a sign of weakness, was in my estimation a greater weakness. There was a bit of John Wayne in Alex Toth, although he wasn't a fan of the movie star and wouldn't have liked the comparison. He once opined that John Wayne was a decent actor until he started being John Wayne in his movies. Alex would rather have been Errol Flynn. My experiences with Alex were mostly good ones. Only the ending was bad. Let's see. If I remember correctly, we'll see. I just want to see something quick. Okay. So, I felt he overreacted over a situation that was not of my making. However, the positive side of Alex Toth was monumental and encompassing in scope. That's the side on which I've chosen to spend most of this article. It's the side that made me wish the bad in him wasn't there. Okay. Alex confided much about his life to me. Former wives, girlfriends, his often unhappy childhood, friendships, and more. He wanted me to understand him, but it sometimes bothered him that I knew so much. There is that. I believe this also contributed to our parting of the ways. You know too much about me. He wanted to be close to people, but that closeness frightened him at times. Alex was a loner whose occasional ambivalence about people complicated the relationships he held so dear. Alex, more than most, wanted and needed love from his friends. Sadly, deep down, I don't think he really liked himself. That's a big assumption there. But he didn't know him. Don't know. I don't know about that. Let's see. Reassurance of love was a vital component of his being, though he would never have admitted it. Demonstrations of appreciation and love were flowers of hope to a man who needed constant watering. It didn't come off. He came off pretty self-sufficient to me. All right, he wasn't this little soy boy. Love me. It just doesn't sound right. That part. It just doesn't. Constant? No. Demonstrations of appreciation and love were flowers of hope to a man who needed constant watering. He tried his best to manage relationships, but didn't always accept his own culpability when problems arose. He struck back at major and minor hurts with roaring flames of anger. Like most of us, he was his own worst enemy. He knew it, and it haunted him. He gave advice on personal matters with the clarity of an experienced survivor. I avoided making several mistakes in my life because of him, and learned new ways of dealing with certain situations. As noted, he could be extremely generous to friends, often giving financial help to those in need without being asked. I know of more than one person who avoided losing their lodgings because of Alex's benevolence. He did it quietly without fanfare. There was so much good in him that has gone unheralded, except in the hearts of those he rescued. Our relationship was one of mutual respect and affection. There were times when I was highly critical of things he said or did, and Alex never got mad at my dissent. There were a lot of people in Alex's life who walked on eggshells for fear of losing his comradeship, but not me. He had a reputation for ending friendships over minor and at times petty disagreements, so I suspected it would eventually happen to me, too. However, true friendship demands honesty, and I wasn't going to shrink back just because it was Alex Toth I was dealing with. I'm sorry our friendship didn't last, but I knew that was the danger of getting close to him. Alex once said in a candid moment that he knew his attitude of "you love me on my terms or I won't love you back" was unfair. He gave me his reason for that behavior, knowing I wasn't the type to play that game. I am sorry that we ended up not talking the last few years of his life. I might have been able to do something about that, but chose not to do so. That must be very difficult when you can never do it, when you can never actually do it again. I was told he liked my alter ego work. There were several interviews, especially the Jim Amash one, done with Alex in mind. I knew what he wanted to know and considered him a vital part of my audience. I knew he liked my comic book inking too. All things considered, I'll be forever grateful for his friendship while we had it, and for the education he gave me on so many subjects. I think it's fair to say he learned things from me too, except for the finale. We both gave as good as we got from each other. It was worth the journey. Finish. Okay. And again, if you can subscribe, I would appreciate it. Subscribe to my channel. If you like this video, if you can like it and spread the word and share it, I would really appreciate it. Next time we talk about the movie 1941 and how Toth was possibly in line to draw it, the adaptation for the Spielberg film. And this is written by John Workman, one of the greatest letters in comic book history, period. One of the greats. It's awesome. Looking forward to it. Take care, everyone.